So pigs, a few of you said that you were interested in raising pigs, and that's another one that I have seen a number of people that have just decided on a fluke because they really like eating pork, and have seen that there's been seemed what appears to be people making good money raising pigs and not really doing the research. So I encourage you to go visit someone and look at what they're doing. If you need to think about it, are you going to buy piglets, or are you going to breed a sow to have your own? Next week, Mimi Fueling, who raises pork and beef, is going to come and talk to us, and I know that Mimi and a couple other farmers I know, they breed their sows and raise their own pigs because they're doing a quantity, but I can tell you that when the time comes for those sows to be birthing, they're pretty limited to where they can go and what they can do. They're pretty much on call all the time, just like I guess they're piggy midwives, so they have to be there. Those are things that you need to think about, and it's finding piglets to buy if you're just going to do a couple of pigs is not always the easiest thing either, because so many more people are raising their own meat these days that it's not real accessible. So when you're doing your research, really look at that, look at different breeds, look at how much it's going to cost you, winter quarters, summer quarters, and always who's going to buy it and how are you going to get it to the butcher. I know a couple people that have had pigs, and they were ready to go to the butcher, but when they were ready, it was winter time. They couldn't access, they couldn't get in there, so that's something to really look at and think about. And also, are you going to sell cuts of meat or buy the half pig? So those are things we will talk about next week a little bit more. So this publication is a PDF file on Moodle, and some of you have probably already looked this over, but I found this to be an excellent resource, and the National Sustainable Ag Information Service just has, of all the sites where I go to get information, ATTRA and NCAT, it's NCAT is kind of taking over ATTRA, but it's probably my favorite site. They have so much good information, and I encourage you to visit this site often and really look at what they have to offer. And if you haven't had the time to go through this publication, it really offers some excellent basic first steps that will help you determine what to grow and how to sell it. And there's just a lot of wonderful publications out there that will really help tell you how to produce something, whether it's chickens, pigs, or a new field crop. It's just figuring out which new enterprise is right for you and your farm and your family. And truly the key to success is doing your homework, doing your research, and using guides like this. I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so much information out there, and we have the internet to help us through, and we have farmer neighbors and other people doing the same thing that you're doing that can be mentors. And of course you have us to be your mentors as well. So I put this picture up here not only because Sora is a very dear friend of mine, but for she sells at just it's kind of a, I put this for the value added aspect, and Sora sells at the Bonners Ferry Market, and for probably, I don't know, 10 years or so was selling organic breads, pastries, and that was the mainstay for her at her farmer's market. And she very carefully assesses the market from the year before and compares cost increases for organic flour and organic sugar and adjusts her sales costs accordingly. So as the cost of flour and sugar has gone up over the year, obviously she adjusts her costs to increase the sales price of her breads and pastries. Meanwhile, other folks come into the market and sell bakery items with no clue at how much it costs them to make what they sell, and they're happy to sell out, but they're not realizing that they are losing money. And because Sora has made an effort to really do a cost analysis of this, I think she's probably shifting gears and may not even be selling at the farmer's market anymore. And that's just because it's changed with the competition, and that's something that we all have to assess frequently. The competition does change. I mean, I review and assess every year. After 22 years of selling at the farmer's market, nothing stays the same. And you know, people look at what you're doing, and they will do the same thing, and they might do it better than you. They might charge less than you. I know that we, for example, one of our value-added products is jam. Well, we sell a half pint of our organic jam for $5. We sell a half pint of do a product called Huckleberry Blues, made with huckleberries and blueberries, that we sell for $6 a half pint. And last year we had a new vendor come in with quarts of strawberry jam that he sold for $5 a quart. Of course, he sold out right away. And you think he knew what it cost him to make that jam? He wasn't making money, I'm sure of that, which is why you have to do a financial assessment and figure out if it's profitable. I mean, of course we choose to do what we're doing for the love of working with the land, the love of working with animals. I mean, we better love what we're doing, number one. But we're going to love it a little bit more if we're making some living off of it, that we're making some profit off of it. So the financial assessment is so important, and this is something that I learn more every year. I get better at it every year, and it's not something that like I said, I'm not a natural for that, but I am learning and I'm improving, and I have lots of room for improvement, and I suspect most of us do. Craig has done a great deal shared a great deal of information with what he's taught us with holistic management, and he's going to address this more in a few minutes. We had a bit of a discussion about the difference between a gross margin analysis and a gross profit analysis, and Craig's going to go more into that in a minute. But what I gave you an example to review, which was actually a gross margin analysis, and if you looked at that, one of the things that in coming up with a gross margin analysis is that you have to really take the time to calculate the actual cost of row crops, and it's pretty difficult to do with row crops, and I think a large percentage of you are growing an assortment of small crops, and that comes back to figuring out the time. And I wanted you to see that, and that's in your resources, of how we came up with the gross margin analysis, of really looking closely at everything that it takes us to get a garlic crop from planting to the market. And I really track that down, and I encourage you to look at that and try to repeat something like that for any new enterprise that you may have coming up in the near future. And there's a happy apprentice with garlic. I wanted to, well, I moved through that pretty quickly, but I think I'm right on target with my time. I did have a quick poll question just to find out if you've completed any kind of financial assessment. So can we do the poll and then?
Sure. So here's the poll. Have you completed any kind of financial assessment for a new enterprise you are considering? Almost 80% of participants have voted. 90%. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and show the results. So 47% of our participants tonight say yes, that they have completed a financial assessment for an enterprise that they're considering, and 53% say no.